If you're looking to start or grow your freelance consulting business this year, did you know that according to the US Bureau of Labor, 20% of businesses fail in their first year, 50% don't make it 5 years, and only about 30% last 10 years? I've been a freelance consultant for more than 20 years, and in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down the 5 big mistakes that cause consultants to fail, and more importantly, how you can avoid those mistakes so that you can go on to build a successful freelance consulting business. And the first mistake to avoid is not knowing your client's pain points. This is the quickest path to lose every potential project that you might have. And there are 2 ways that this can happen. First, not taking the time to really listen to your client. I know that it's tempting, but don't start by giving advice to your client. This feels right. You're the consultant. You're the one that has the expertise. You want to help. It usually comes from that place of wanting to help. Instead of offering advice, start by asking questions. Start by asking a lot of questions. This is the phase of the project known as discovery. Why is it called discovery? Well, you're discovering things that you just didn't know before about your client's specific problems. So your number one goal is to ask a lot of questions, and your only job is to listen. Listen carefully. Take notes. Let me tell you a story. Recently, I had to go car shopping, and the salesperson that I talked to at the first dealership I went to, we discussed what I was looking for. I told the salesperson what was most important to me. Me as a business owner, I'm looking for something that is a good value. I know that a car is a wasting asset. It is going to continue to depreciate. As soon as I buy the car, the next day it's going to be worth less than the day that I bought it. I think of money in terms of opportunity cost. What I could do with that money instead of buying a car. So the more money I spend on a car, the more money I invest in that purchase, the less money I have to do other things with. Now, value doesn't necessarily mean cheap. The best value car is not necessarily the cheapest car because there are a few different things that determine the value of a car. One of the things would be resale value. What is it going to be worth in 5 years when I might want to sell that car or trade it in? Some cars depreciate more quickly than others do. Another way that the car might be a good value is there might be a promotion going on. There might be a dealer incentive. There might be a discount. There might be a discount on the financing rate. Those things over time, well, either upfront when I buy the car or over time with the financing, will help save me money, put more money in my pocket. Could also be the total cost of ownership of a car. How much you're going to spend on maintenance, how much you're going to spend on fuel costs, how much you're going to spend on insurance. The more money you spend on all those things, the worse value that car actually is. Another way to look at purchase of a car, another way to look at the value of the purchase of a car is that some cars may be used for implementing certain tax strategies. So my pain point in car shopping was the fear of getting a bad value in the car that I bought. That means that I would lose the opportunity of that money to do something else, to invest in maybe something that's an appreciating asset, something like investing in the stock market or investing in real estate or even investing in my own business. So after my test drive, after I did a few test drives with a salesperson, we sat down and talked. And the first question she asked me was, so how did that car make you feel? I felt frustrated by that question. I just invested all that time in explaining to her what is important to me in a car. I was wondering, did she even listen to me? And it made me think maybe she just has a script, the same script that she uses with every potential customer. Now, she could have said anything. She could have pulled out anything about any one of those cars that made it a good value, some aspect, some quality of the car that would help me to see it as a good value. But she didn't do any of that. Now, it's no different when it comes to consulting. The number one skill you need to hone is your listening skills. Your goal should be to understand at a deep level what your client's biggest challenges are. If you key in on those, if you let those lead your conversation, guide your interaction with your client, this is what's going to allow them to see you as a trusted advisor. It is essential for your client to see you as a trusted advisor for them to want to do business with you. And the way you do that is to show by your asking questions, by your really listening and hearing what they're saying, that you are fully invested in helping them solve their problems. As a trusted advisor, you're the one that is going to lead your client out of their pain, out of their current problems, and into a better and brighter future. Now, I've made a video on how to find your client's pain points. I'll leave that in the description below. Now, there's a second way you can fail to know your client's pain points. This is the opposite of not listening. This is when you go in and you assume you know what your client needs. You have a solution in your mind and you're just trying to sell it to your client. This is the proverbial, you have a hammer and you think everything is a nail. This is not consulting. Consulting is giving advice. Advice is, by definition, giving your opinion on what someone should do in a very specific situation. If you don't know their specific situation, how can you give them any advice? Back to my car shopping example. So the salesperson, a few days later, followed up with me by text. I thought that was pretty cool. I appreciated that. The problem was she ended up sending me listings for cars that I wasn't looking for. When I went shopping, when I was at her dealership, I looked exclusively at larger SUVs or pickup trucks. She ended up sending me listings for minivans. Now, these were high demand minivans, but again, that just made me feel she was sending this out to all of her customers, regardless of what they were looking for. It's not what I wanted. It's not what I was looking for. And it made me feel like she didn't listen to me at all. Now, I tried a couple more times with the salesperson, but I kept feeling like I was the one doing all the work. I was the one that had to keep redirecting her back to what I first shared with her that I was looking for. In the end, I ended up buying a car from a different dealership. And this is the very same with consulting. If you come to your client with a solution that they're not looking for, that doesn't meet their needs, that doesn't actually help them solve their problems, you immediately disqualify yourself from working with them. Now, the second mistake that consultants make is not aggravating your client's pain points. Let's say you've done discovery right. You've asked great questions. You've learned about your client's problems. You've really understood where they're at. There's a trap. If you get to this point and fail to help your client see how bad this pain is hurting their business and how much worse it can get, if you fail to do that, you haven't helped your client at all. All you have is the very same knowledge that your client had before. You literally just got a brain dump from them. And if you stop there, your client isn't any better off. And you're not any closer to winning the project. What you need to do is really to flesh out the consequences of your clients not taking action, not dealing with their problem. Let me tell you another story. So recently, I went to the dentist to get a routine cleaning. And after the hygienist cleaned my teeth, the dentist came in and I told him I had a tooth in the back that hurts when I bite on something hard. I had just been living with it, mainly just chewing on the other side if I ever was chewing something that was hard. And what the dentist could have said is, hey, if you think you might want to do something about that, just let me know. Instead, what he did was he diagnosed the problem. He took a close look at my teeth and he showed me, or he told me, that I had a crack running down the back of that tooth. He then proceeded to tell me what he could do. He said he could drill out the crack. It wasn't all the way through the tooth. He could drill out the crack and then fill it with a bonding filling. So he diagnosed the problem. He offered a solution. My first thought was, honestly, I don't like drilling in my teeth. And I told him that. And when I objected, he then proceeded to graphically explain the consequences of if I don't take action and do something about my tooth. If I don't do anything with my tooth, he said, one day You could be chewing something hard and you could accidentally bite and it could crack all the way through the tooth. And once that happens, there's nothing he can do then to save that tooth. I would need to do, I would need to have a root canal. And when he told me that, I literally winced. He struck a nerve, no pun intended. What would that mean? Would I lose the tooth? Would I have a hole in my mouth? What would I have to do then? That would be more pain and more aggravation and more appointments. I couldn't bear the thought of that. So, what was the outcome of that? I'm going to make the appointment. I am not even going to ask how much it's going to cost to fix the tooth. And here's the principle: if you are able to accurately and graphically describe the painful consequences of your client's inaction, if they don't take action on the problem, on the pain point that's facing their business, that they're facing in their business, if you can actually describe the consequences of that to them, your client will be motivated to take action. The thing is, when you have pain, just like with my tooth, you can kind of get used to it. You can kind of work around it. It's not helping you. It's not making you, I'm not able to eat certain foods or choose certain things, or I definitely avoid certain foods that could be problematic for that tooth. In the same way, if your client has a pain point that they're not dealing with, they're probably just working around it, but it is impacting their business in some way. And if you don't aggravate that pain for them, help them to see how bad it is now and how bad it could be or how much worse it could be in the future, they may not be motivated to take action. Aggravating the pain helps your client to see how bad things really are and how much worse they can get. And the second part of that is price will not be a barrier. And what this means is you can charge more. Now, how do you do that with a business? The way you do that as a business is you need numbers. You need to show impact to their bottom line. What you need to do is crunch the numbers for them. Show them the cost to their business if they don't take any action. This is how you aggravate business pain. Now, how do you do it effectively? Well, let's think about, how did my dentist do it? He understood my problem better than I did. All I knew is that I had pain, but he knew what that pain meant. He knew why I was having the pain. And most importantly, he knew what would happen if I didn't take action. As a consultant, you need to do the same. You need to understand what's causing your client's problem. You need to understand what will happen and be able to explain to them what will happen if they don't solve the problem. Really need to hit this home. Also, you want to be able to offer what you can do to solve their problem. In the case of my dentist, he actually sat down with me and he drew a picture. He took out a piece of paper, he drew a picture of the tooth, he drew exactly what he would do, where I'm at now, what it would look like when it's done, and why that would be a great solution. You, as a consultant, need to do the same thing. You need to paint the picture for your client of what things will look like when their problem is solved, when they have a solution in place. This is how you win high value projects. Now, here are a few examples of some pain points that your clients may be facing. They might have high labor expenses. One of the reasons could be they spend hours and hours manually bringing their data together so they can even get to the point where they analyze it. They may be facing declining revenue. Maybe it's because they don't have visibility of their data that shows the weaknesses in their product offerings. Maybe they can't take on any new business right now. This happened very recently to a client of mine. Maybe it's because that client, which was my client's case, they have workflow issues. And those workflow issues are because they have homegrown systems or outdated software that just isn't allowing them to work efficiently. Maybe they're losing customers because their competition offers better self-service tools in their customer portal. Those are just a few examples. But when you can help your client to see with their specific case, see their pain clearly, you're going to win those projects. Now, the third big mistake that consultants make is making a single offer. Think about it. Why do people like to go out and eat at a restaurant? People like to have choices. Now, sometimes it might just be because they don't feel like cooking that night. But for the most part, people like to go to the restaurant, open up the menu, and realize they can choose anything on the menu. They can choose multiple things on the menu. If you think about a restaurant that only had one choice on the menu, I don't think it would have very many customers. People like to go, they like to explore their options. They like the freedom to choose what they want to eat. I'm a foodie and I love going to a restaurant more than once, but each time I go back, I like to try something different. Again, I can go there and I have different choices. Having said that, you do want to be the trusted guide who leads your client to the solution. But ultimately, your client needs to be the one to choose their path forward, to decide what's best for their business. If you only give them one choice, you really haven't given them a choice at all. Actually, the choice you've given them is buy from you or don't buy from you. And that's not a position you want to put yourself in. Don't make your client choose between you and your competitor. Now, what you want to do is offer multiple choices. Remember those tests in school? There were a few different tests you might have in school. One would be true, false. Another would be multiple choice. Another would be long answer. Now, nobody wanted the long answer questions on the test. I remember when I was taking the bar exam, the bar exam is 2 days all day. You sit for 2 days all day taking this exam. One of the sections is the essay section. All you have is a question and you have a blank sheet of paper. There's nothing more intimidating than staring at a blank sheet of paper when the clock is ticking on the exam. So there were also the true and false questions back in school. The problem with true and false is you don't know if it's right or wrong. It's one or the other. See, everyone wanted the multiple choice test because you know the right answer is on there somewhere. And by making multiple offers to your client, one of those offers is going to be the right fit for your client. As a bonus, and this is a huge bonus, this also allows them to choose a higher offer. So if you give them multiple offers, they may in fact choose the highest offer. Here's an everyday example. If any of you have been lucky enough to either live out west, Western United States, or travel out west, you might have run into a restaurant called In-N-Out Burger. This is an iconic restaurant out west. They only have 3 choices on the menu: combo 1, combo 2, or combo 3. Combo 1 is a double, combo 2 is a cheeseburger, and combo 3 is a hamburger. What's the most popular choice? Well, I couldn't find any official statistics, but according to some third-party sources, the double is the most popular choice. It also happens to be the most expensive choice on the menu. Now, why is it the most popular? Well, we could debate this. Obviously, if the hamburger is good and the cheeseburger is better, a double cheeseburger is just more, better, good. It's just more of what's good, right? But I'd argue why it's the most popular is the wrong question to ask. A better question is, what if they only had the 2 lower price combos? What if they only had combo 2 and combo 3? Well, simply put, no one could choose combo 1. The result, they'd have less overall revenue in their business. A warning here: more options are not necessarily better. If you go above 3 options, you run the risk of overwhelming your client. And one thing to remember is an overwhelmed buyer doesn't buy. So my recommendation would be to stick with offering your client 3 different options in your proposal. Now, the 4th mistake consultants make is not charging enough. One of the huge benefits of providing several options on your proposal is that providing several options enables you to include offers to your client that are above their budget. So what that means is clearly you need to ask their budget. You should always ask your client what their budget is. Most clients don't want to answer that question, but you still need to ask it. And if they do give you an answer, take what they told you with a grain of salt. Here's the thing about money. People get funny about money, right? Clients don't want to show their cards. They have a fear of overpaying. They fear that if they tell you their budget is $100,000, you're just going to give them a proposal that's at $100,000. Now, as consultants struggle with the opposite. They struggle with the fear of being perceived as charging too much for their services. Here's the issue for consultants. If you don't start charging more, you will never charge more. If you don't overcome your insecurities of charging more, you're going to give in and charge less. And the truth is that less is not the key to winning projects. Why would you want to race to the bottom? Nobody wins that race. Think of it. How do people view the cheapest options in life? Let me ask you a question. If money were no object, would you rather buy an old, falling apart house with a leaky roof or a spacious new build with a beautiful view? Maybe to you, a beautiful view is a view of the ocean, or think of a view of the mountains. Maybe it's a view of the countryside, or maybe it's a great view of the city. If money were no object, I'm sure you would say you would rather have the spacious new build with that beautiful view. So why do consultants charge too little? Why do most consultants charge too little? The reason is they don't focus on the ROI. They don't focus on the client's return on investment. And the reason they don't do that is because they don't want to do the work. They don't put in the work to prove the value of their project. If you do the work to show the value of what solution you're offering your client, you're going to close many of those projects. For example, if you propose a $100,000 project for your client, and that project, that solution produces $200,000 in revenue that year, your client is going to want to do that project every year. If you could put in $100,000 and get back $200,000 every year, that's 100% return on their money. Let me tell you another story. I live in the Northeast. Winters here can mean lots and lots of snow. Recently, I had to get my snowblower fixed. Now, the truth is, it had been broken for a while, and I just procrastinated. When it was springtime, I was excited that there was no more snow. I was getting outside enjoying the weather. When it was summertime, I spent most of my time outside. And when it was fall, I was enjoying the changing of the leaves, the color, the fresh smells of autumn. And I literally forgot to get my snowblower fixed. So a few weeks back, we got a really big snowstorm. And this was heavy, heavy snow. And my snowblower was broken. So I had to shovel my driveway. After that, I called the repair shop and I said, hey, I need my snowblower fixed. So they made arrangements to come pick it up. They told me what the price would be. And then they said, well, it's probably going to be a couple weeks because we have a lot of snowblowers to fix. Now, I had just shoveled my driveway with all that heavy snow. I was feeling exhausted. If they had had another more expensive option that gave me expedited service, I would have paid for that in a heartbeat. What's the principle? If you don't make a more expensive offer, the truth is your client can't accept it. You always want to offer an expensive option with every single benefit you can think of that would genuinely help your client. Think of it this way. With consulting, there really are no rules. Other than doing good work that truly helps your client, there are no rules for pricing. Recently, I did a project where I tripled my rate with an existing client. Now, if any of you have been consulting for a while, you know how hard it is to increase your rate with an existing client. And I don't offer hourly rates anymore, but this is a client I've had for actually a couple of decades. For a long time, I was stuck at what I considered to be below market rate with them. And I asked them a few times to increase the rate, and they said no. But in this case, they had a project that they wanted done quickly, and they wanted it done quickly because they knew that they would have a competitive advantage by bringing that to market quickly. This was an extremely tight timeline. It was approximately a month to implement a business intelligence platform for them. In the end, it turned out to be a win-win. They were able to secure their competitive advantage. And the truth is, they made a boatload, and they continue to make a boatload because they got out in front in their industry, and they have won so much business with that implementation. For them, this was a net positive ROI. And for me, the other side of the win-win is that I earn more and I continue to earn more because I never went back to that old rate. And the fifth mistake that consultants make is trying to do it alone. Maybe you think that sounds odd because, freelancers are often, almost always, solopreneurs. They work by themselves. But it is very difficult to figure out everything on your own. Even worse, it will take you a lot longer to get where you want to get. When I first started out, I made a ton of mistakes. The problem with making mistakes, there's a good side, is that you learn from them. But the bad side is that certain mistakes can keep you stuck where you are for a very long time. And it wasn't until I decided to get some help that I was really able to build a successful consulting business. One thing I did was I invested in training from consultants who had more experience than I did. Another thing is that I've been part of a mastermind for about a decade. Also, I currently, even today, have a paid coach who helps guide my steps in business. I can confidently say I'd be nowhere near where I am without these other people in my life. There's a common saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. What my coach says is no. If you want to go fast, go together. This is what cyclists do in a race when they draft on each other. This is what geese do when they're flying in that V formation. They are drafting off the goose next to them, and they rotate that front position. The truth is, it would take so much longer for cyclists to finish a race by themselves or for the geese to get where they're going if they tried going alone. Some things you could do. You could meet up with other solopreneurs. Even if they don't do exactly what you do, it's not important they do the same exact thing that you do. The fact that they're solopreneurs, the fact that they are doing business on their own, that gives you those things in common. There are enough things you can help each other with just by the fact that you're both independent. You're both freelance consultants. You could also find a co-working space. Co-working spaces are filled with people who are solopreneurs, people who are independent. That's why they go to the co-working space, because they don't have an office to go to with any coworkers. You could also try to find a community online, a community of people that are also solopreneurs, also freelancers. Another thing you could do, something that's been incredibly valuable to me, and I think one of the most valuable things you can do, is to find a coach, someone who's been where you want to go, someone who's already been there, someone who knows how to get there, someone who has honestly a bunch of mistakes that if they could go back and do it over again, they wouldn't want to make those mistakes, so they can pass that information, that knowledge along to you. Now, if you'd like help starting or growing your consulting business, click the link in the description below. You can fill out a form. I'd really love to hear where you're at and what challenges you're facing. And if it makes sense, we can jump on a call, see if there might be an opportunity to work together. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.